Hello and welcome to FPL Mate, your best mate for fantasy Premier League content for the 2021-22 season. My name is Dan and today we are doing a buy, sell, keep, avoid video for Game Week 22. Back on the normal content schedule. Very glad about that finally after a lot of time off with no Premier League football really. Really glad to get stuck back in. And of course guys, I'm also representing the Nigeria colours after our win today. So super hyped up about that as well guys. So yeah, we're going to do all the normal transfer business ahead of Game Week 22. So if you do enjoy this video, please do leave a like and of course do subscribe as well if you're new around here too. That would be massively appreciated. So let's get on with it. So buys are players you probably don't have but you consider bringing in. Sells are players you probably have but you consider removing. Keeps are players you probably have and I think you should keep these players. And finally avoids are players that are pretty hyped up right now. You might be thinking about bringing them in. I'm here to tell you why you should not bring them in. And maybe you'll believe me, and maybe you'll trust me, and maybe you won't. We'll see, I guess. As always, guys, have to recommend that you leave your transfers as late as humanly possible, as late as reasonably possible, just because things are changing so fast in FPL right now. There'll be more games cancelled, you know, stuff like that, more games rescheduled. Anything can happen, so leave it as late as possible, and you'll do just fine. So our first buy today is Harry Kane. I think a lot of people were really excited about Son this game week, so much so that almost 400,000 FPL managers used an early transfer to bring him in before finding out that he's actually going to be injured for a few weeks. Siri define L. I guess there's another tough lesson on why early transfers are just kind of a bad idea at this point. But I'm not going to keep banging on forever about you know why I shouldn't make early transfers. I do that enough on this channel, to be honest, and I'll probably say it again before the end of the video. That's just what I constantly talk about by the seams of things. But since there is no Son, you're probably going to be thinking, I'm a bit lost for transfers. You might want a Spurs player, you don't really know what to go for. Can you trust Kane? But I do genuinely think that Kane can be a decent alternative in a similar mould. You get the decent double Game Week 22 fixtures, you get a brilliant captain option for this week, and you get other unscheduled games hopefully soon as well. But more importantly, you get a player that genuinely seems to be coming back into form. 3 goals in his last 4. We know for forwards, goals often breed more goals, but what interests me more is that Kane is slightly underperforming his stats, which kind of suggests he's still yet to get back to his full potential, which we know is possible. Over the past 5 or 6 game weeks, only Salah is shooting as much as Kane out of all Premier League players, and Kane has played less games than Salah as well, so you have to think about that. Kane also finds himself in the top few players in stats such as shots in the box, shots on target, big chances, and of all the players who have played significant minutes, only Sterling and Salah can beat his XG per 90 minutes of 0.74. Again, really good. His creativity been pretty decent as well. It's actually kind of surprising he hasn't had any assists recently. So overall, when you look at Kane, he's actually looking really positive, a really nice player to pick up. And even if it might take you a couple of transfers, 2 transfers to get Kane into your team, I still think it could be a really good idea. If he's able to add the odd assist to his game, maybe get some bonus points as well, we're suddenly looking at some really big hauls. Arsenal and Leicester are 2 of his favourite teams in the entire world to play against, with the latter seriously lacking in the defensive department. So I think you can buy Kane, I think you can captain Kane, and I think it could be really worth your while, to be honest. My next buy is James Maddison, and this one feels a little bit more punty, mostly because it is a lot more punty. But since Maddison is kind of one of the first players I'd want if I were on a free hit, it makes sense to consider him for a regular transfer too. But the guy has just been an FPL points machine whenever Leicester have played recently, right? 4 10-plus pointer hauls in his last 6 games, and 2 of those were 16 pointers as well. Can you imagine what he could do in a double game week, playing against a seriously struggling Burnley team and Spurs? Spurs, fair enough, looks a tough fixture, but Leicester have turned up and made a game of it recently against City and Liverpool. And although I have next to zero faith in the Leicester defence, Maddison has seriously made their attack worth talking about. And I honestly feel like if Leicester hadn't had so many games called off recently, Maddison would be considered almost an essential player for this double game week, given that his FPL scores recently. Underlying stats wise, it's kind of difficult to compare him with some other players since he's played so few games compared to a lot of other people, but I would say it generally looks kind of good. If we go by the last 8 game weeks, so we can kind of look at stats from Maddison's past 5 actual games, we can see him towards the top in a lot of metrics per appearance. 4th for shots per appearance behind Ronaldo, Kane and Salah. That's kind of the key one really, to be 4th for total shots per appearance, right? But he's also getting a lot on target, so even if he is taking some of his shots from range, you can see that he's making good of those shots. Creatively, he's not bad. He's kind of in the same region as Salah, but not quite in the same region as, you know, the elite level of Son and Bowen. They're producing the best, you know, sort of creative stats, but he's kind of, you know, in that kind of category below, I guess. He is overperforming. I agree, yes, Maddison is overperforming, but as a form player and a form style of player, I don't see why that should be an issue, and if anything, it makes it a good thing. You know, we want the form players when they are overperforming, because their overperformance breeds more overperformance before they eventually fall off. You never know when that's going to happen, but you know, ride the wave while it's high, I guess. He's rested, you know, as well. He's not just had 1, but 2 games called off in Game Week 21, and I think he's just a really good pick for this week, and I think he can more than make up for the fact that you might want to bench him or transfer him out in future game weeks. So just keep an eye on fixture cancellations, and definitely don't make an early move here, because we do know Leicester have basically become the kings of postponed games recently, haven't they? On to some sells. Our first sell is the AFCON gang. I know what you guys are thinking. Who is this AFCON guy and how do I get him into my team? He sounds like a sick player, right? But really, I'm just being super non-specific, because basically, I know a lot of people's transfer moves this week are going to be based around injured players like Son and Reece James, but also massively around players who are now left to play to go and play at AFCON, right? So it's all well and good me suggesting you transfer out this player or that player, but if you've got a Salah, a Benrahma, or someone like that in your team, you're gonna transfer out the Salah or the Benrahma, right? And so you should. Other important FPL players who are currently away on international duty in Africa are Edouard Mendy, Mahrez, Amati, Saiss, Mane, Zaha, Iheanacho, and I doubt any of you guys have Aubameyang, but just in case you do, he has also gone off for international duty as well. And it could be a really good idea to just sell any of them that you have, right? All of them will be missing a minimum of 2 game weeks each, and if they make it past the group stage of the tournament, they could miss 3 or potentially even 4 game weeks if they're also granted rest time after the tournament, which you expect they perhaps would. A lot of the Premier League AFCON players are expected to go far in the tournament as well, so you kind of have to assume that your players will be missing for 3 game weeks minimum. I know it'd be an assumption, but you kind of have to make that assumption and you know, think about the worst possible outcome, I guess. Now, if your AFCON player is someone like Amati, who is just going to stay on your bench anyway, maybe you can keep them. But if you've got someone like Salah, who is taking up a significant amount of your budget, or even someone like Benrahma taking up a crucial slot in your midfield, or Mendy, maybe he's your only playing goalkeeper, it is a good idea to sell these players, particularly as we know having a strong bench is really important. And if you find yourself with multiple players on your bench who are injured, have COVID, and also others also are at AFCON as well, you're going to struggle for backup if any more games are called off. And because so many people will be selling these AFCON players, you may actually even be able to buy them back at a cheaper price in a few weeks if that's what you kind of want to do. So go for it, in my opinion. I don't think there's anything wrong. I think it's a good idea to sell those AFCON players. Go for it. And now here's Bernardo Silva. I guess this is your weekly reminder to sell Bernardo Silva. I know a lot of you guys still have him in your team, and if you're lucky enough to not have many AFCON problems or injury problems, maybe this is the player for you to sell instead. The stats, as you can see, are not great, and they're not looking like improving either, particularly the shooting. And although he did get an assist against Arsenal, I don't want to troll. I don't want that to troll anyone, basically, into thinking that he's likely to be back in the points anytime soon. Take that assist that you got against Arsenal and run, right? Because there are so much better midfielders around the same price to go for. The main 2 I would be looking at as a replacement would be Jota for the long term. Jota looks to be cemented in this Liverpool team right now with Salah and Mane out. He's going to be the main man in attack, and he could really benefit from the support of Firmino as well. And of course, if you fancy a punt, Maddison, as I mentioned earlier, could be a really nice player to go for, particularly over the double game week. So guys, obviously you want to be transferring out players who are injured for a while. You know, there's a good argument to say you should be transferring out players who are departing for, or who have already departed for AFCON as well. But if you don't have those problems, Bernardo Silva is another player I would strongly consider letting go of. On to some keeps, and we've got Emmanuel Dennis. Of course, we're representing the Nigeria colours. So I was really kind of surprised to see that a lot of people are selling Dennis this game week, which is totally crazy. But I think I know why, and I think there could be a couple of reasons why. So first of all, he has a yellow injury warning sign next to his name on the FPL app, or as I like to call it, the Dorito of death. This suggested he has a knock and may not be available for this game week, a game week where Watford have incredible double game week fixtures versus Newcastle and on Burnley. As it turns out, Dennis did indeed train today, so he should be more than ready to start come the weekend. So panic over as far as the injury front is, as far as I'm concerned. Dennis should also play both games and feast accordingly. He's going to be fit. He's going to be fine. He should be fine. The other reason I think many people are maybe selling Dennis is because they think that he has gone to AFCON, which in fairness, he probably should have gone to AFCON to represent the Super Eagles. But unfortunately, due to a mix-up with the paperwork and deadlines, he had to be withdrawn from the squad. And as such, he stays in England and again should play both Gameweek 22 games and feast accordingly. So, in conclusion, up the Niger, up the Dennis. Definitely do not sell him, and I'd even consider buying him if you don't have him already, as he could be a seriously dangerous asset. Not just this double game week, but next game week as well. Also, keep Ollie Watkins. A lot of people will be tempted to sell Ollie Watkins this week, I think. But, I kind of get why. He's delivered a lot of disappointment, hasn't he? Lots of Villa games postponed, COVID, blanking against Chelsea. It's not great, really, right? But you have to remember that's in the past. And a lot of it, even the blank against Chelsea, was just down to bad luck. Bad luck doesn't last forever. And I think going forward, Watkins could be a really good FPL asset. The fixtures look decent. Everton, Leeds, Newcastle and Watford all in a row after the United game. And we will also have, two decent fixtures versus Burnley and Leeds that will need to be rescheduled to create two more double game weeks at some point in the season for Aston Villa. So actually, I think going forward, lots of things look reasonably positive at the moment. And you know what else is looking positive? Coutinho, the playmaking wizard, playing behind Watkins. You know, he's going to be coming into Aston Villa and he's going to be playing behind Watkins and drawing defenders in, feeding passes. This is surely going to make Watkins a much better player, a better FPL asset, right? Honestly, I think if you're a Watkins owner, there is a lot to be excited about in the future. So even if you're tempted to use him as a kind of a make weight for a Kane or a Ronaldo or a Dennis or whoever really, maybe have a little bit of a think about it first and whether that is a good idea to sell Watkins if you're thinking slightly further into the future. On to some avoids, always controversial, always controversial. My first avoid is Bukayo Saka, as you can see on the screen, the third most transferred player in this game week so far, actually. So he's super, super popular as a player to be brought in, and I can kind of see why. He's returned in 5 games in a row now. That's really decent for a nailed-on 6.4 midfielder in an in-form Arsenal team, but it just seems like a little bit of a weird transfer to me looking forward. Firstly, we're on a double game week right now. The most obvious thing to do on a double game week is to buy a double game week player so we can get instant returns from our new purchase. Arsenal just have just one fixture in game week 22, and to make things worse, it's a big derby game away against Kane Spurs. A Spurs team that actually is performing pretty well defensively, so attackers could struggle there. After that is Burnley, which on paper you would say is a better time to jump on those Arsenal attackers. But then after that, we have another really tough away game against Wolves, and then after that, a blank. So over the next 4, we have just one good fixture, 2 bad fixtures, and a blank. And that's not really too good. And Arsenal also blank again in game week 27. So there's actually going to be 2 bad fixtures and then 2 blanks in the space of 6 game weeks. So because of that, Saka and any other Arsenal players right now seem like just very strange players to buy. Tough fixtures, blanks. Maybe if you're kind of looking to bring in a rotation option for your bench, maybe it would be understandable. But to me, it seems like a bit of a waste of a transfer. And I'd rather focus on players that A, have multiple fixtures this game week, and B, have fixtures, for the vast majority of game weeks over the next 4 or 5. Or, that's kind of what we really want to focus on, because we need players who are playing right now because of the situation where games are getting cancelled all the time. We need someone a little bit safer, a little bit more reliable than a player who is just literally going to be unavailable for 2 out of the next 6. And speaking of looking for players that actually have fixtures every game week in the near future, that's a reason why Mount is on the avoid list for me. So I know he has a double game week, which is brilliant, but after game week 23, he blanks twice in a row due to Chelsea going off to play the Club World Cup. So you would basically be forced to transfer him out after 2 game weeks. That's a really short-term move for what is quite an expensive midfielder. And even if you've got your eyes on this double game week, it's not even that good. The double game week for Chelsea is really not that good. City away, Brighton away, 2 of the toughest defences in the league, and then Spurs in 23, another really tough defence. What is really the best you can hope for here? Now, Mount is a decent player for sure, but aside from his flurry of points about a month ago, he's not looking like an insanely good FPL asset already. Okay, for 7.7 million, he could do a lot worse, right? But nothing good enough that you would say, you'd stop the clock and say, even as a super short-term option, even in these super tough fixtures, I will still back Mount. I don't think he's quite that good. I don't know, maybe if it was a Salah or a Son, you would back him in this situation, but the tough double game week, the 2 blank game weeks, they really put me off of a Mount purchase, or pretty much any Chelsea purchase, really, you know, unless you're on a free hit, of course, where it literally is a 1 week pump. But I don't know, I'm just not convinced that he can make it worth your while with huge scores in the short term. So for me, he does indeed have to go down as an avoid. So in summary, obviously selling your injured players and your AFCON players is your priority, right? Wait a few more days and there'll probably be more games postponed. So, you know, maybe there'll be even more priority players for you to sell. I know it sucks right now, guys. I'm so sorry we're in this situation, but we're in it together at least. And, you know, that's largely going to define your transfer plans for this game week. But what I would say is don't be afraid to take a hit to get the right double game week players, to get the right players for you. Now, don't go crazy taking -8s, -12s, -16s, but if you have to take a hit to get the right players in, I don't think there's anything wrong with that, particularly if you're planning on captaining one of these players you're bringing in as well. As always, try and be patient, make your transfers as late as reasonably possible. See, I told you I'd mention that again before the end of the video. And I guess try and take into considerations doubles and blanks, check the fixtures, you know, see who's blanking soon, see who is doubling right now, and don't get drawn into any traps, and that's basically it. So there you go, guys. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you did enjoy this video, please do like, please do subscribe as well if you're new around here. I'm super excited to get back on the FPL hype train. Really excited for the upcoming game week. I really am. Gotta love a double game week, right, guys? Always gets us excited. But yeah, that's basically it, guys. Normal schedule of content this game week. Not 100% sure whether I'm going to do an updated free hit team or a 100 experts video. I might cancel the 100 experts video and do another free hit team instead. But you guys can let me know what you would prefer in that video slot, I suppose. Just let me know in the comments, I suppose. I read everything. But there we go, guys. Thank you so much for watching. See you tomorrow for another video, and I will see you later, mates. Bye-bye.